Learning vocations to spread the mission of the good news of Jesus Christ. So we might play that little track, and John will join me then afterwards for our Thursday sermon on the Mount. So we'll have a listen to Steffi and back very shortly.
Hello everyone, this is Steffi, your promoter here at Radio Maria. I'm here at the Discernment Retreat in Tala, which is run by Net Ministries, and I'm here with Telia, a good friend of mine, who has organized pretty much this whole discernment retreat. So I know this has been a big dream of yours for a long time, Telia. And coming out here, seeing so many people, there's about 80 people, young adults, coming from all over the country, all over the world. We've got people from England, we've got people from Scotland coming in. But how have you seen the fruit of your labors being here and kind of in the flesh seeing all these people here?
I think the really amazing thing was when we had workshops for the ministries, informational workshops where they were just sharing about what they were doing and how they were volunteering, seeing how well attended they were, and for young adults to realize, okay, I need to get to my big vocation, priesthood, religious life, marriage, single life, but I need to do things, little things in the meantime to get me there, and that they are responding to that and responding to that call is just really beautiful. And all of the talks have just really flowed really beautifully with each other, and the content is amazing, and seeing people's reactions to the presenters has been phenomenal.
Telia, do you think that this is going to become an annual thing? Is that kind of the goal for it to become an annual thing? Or what are your hopes and dreams for this discernment retreat in the future?
Yeah, please God, it is annual, and we're going to have the first weekend of March every year be for this discernment retreat. So we'll be starting to promote that in a few months' time, so be on the lookout for it. But this is a gift from God to the young people in Ireland, and I don't ever want to stop doing it. So.
And what an incredible, just seeing it in the flesh, seeing how many people have come out from all over the country, seeing how many people are asking the question, what does it actually mean to discern? How do I discern? How do I properly discern? And how do I stay close to the Lord? So what are you looking forward to for the rest of the day, Telia? Is there any talk in particular, anything that you've taken out of a talk in particular?
I'm really excited to hear Father Columba Jordan speak. I've been hearing talks from him for the last 10 years, and he just always gives me something new every time. But I think as well the workshops on vocation are coming up, and that will be really exciting to see those as well and hear young people's feedback after they've been to those. So
wow, great, Telia. Thanks so much for organizing this and all of your hours, and I'm sure thankless hours that went in. As someone who's been in ministry, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes that nobody else sees. There's a lot of late nights, there's a lot of preparation. So thank you for all the times that you haven't been thanked for this, and for your team for doing this. This is such an opportunity, so thanks so much, Telia.
It's a privilege. Thank you so much, Steffi.
Great, well done to Steffi. She spent the day there in Tala with that particular conference. Some very interesting speakers, Columba, their brother Columba there, Father Columba, who features regularly on Called to More, which is an online apostolate Katie Asco runs. And who's the other man who was there? I was listening to him last night, the man from Athenry, Father Brendan Coyne was there as well. He's a pretty heavy puncher. He'd be a heavyweight in terms of not holding back in his approach. So I was just editing his talk there last night. So we'll try and get those organised for you and edit and put up the various speakers that were at the discernment conference. There's about 80 young people turned up for that, discerning vocation, whether it's married life, religious life, and so on. Very impressive. So lots of good things happening in the church, John.
No, I agree with you. We have a lot of green shoots. There's a lot of, even on our own apostolate on the streets, what we're finding is that there's a lot of young people are starting to turn up to help us. Actually, Rebecca was with us on Tuesday night. Okay. She equipped herself very well. So I'm sure you'll hear more of that from her. But there are other young people coming forward now who actually want to help out. And they realise the importance, obviously the duality of the prayer and the good works as well. So it's they're beginning to roll up their sleeves. Inquiries are coming in, which I'm delighted about, because I'm getting a bit too old now to be running around Dublin 2 or 3 nights a week.
Hand it over.
Yeah, hand it over. But even from that perspective, the amount of work that's required out there at the moment is just mind-boggling. And the effects, the worldly effects, let's say, like we're talking about here now, we're talking about young people who are homeless as well, and young people who have drug addictions. Like the city centre in Dublin is actually now at night time can be quite intimidating. It can be quite, there's a lot of fairly aggressive behaviour on our main streets, which is incredible. Like, it's just needs to be addressed, and it's not an ironic thing at all, but the people who are trying to address it are people of faith. Like we're talking about the work that the Legion of Mary are doing, the schools that are coming out with us, like St Michael's, Blackrock College and Teresians. We've even had a group from PwC out with us, who are they're young professionals. They're like the PwC are one of the biggest accountancy affiliations in the world. So like one of their guys has brought out a few of their young people as well, and again they've equipped themselves really well, on the street. And
so this is a soup run basically to the homeless.
It's an outreach. It's we bring out tea, sandwiches, clothes, like hoodies, hats, scarves, that type of thing. Especially last night, now it was freezing. So there's a big demand for simple things, like gloves, like that type of thing. So we would have our flask or sandwiches already made, and we just go around town. And the whole approach is a spiritual approach. We don't hide the fact that we're Catholic. In fact, we emphasise that we're Catholic. That's the reason why we're doing it. We're doing it for our Lord. So and I keep saying to the young people that are out with us, it's a two-way thing. Like when we're looking down on somebody on the street, and like we're talking about somebody who's really down in their luck, let's say, like all the issues, they've nowhere to go, they're cold, they're hungry. We're really looking down on the broken Christ, and the good news for us is He's looking back at us. For what you do for one of the least of my brethren, you do it unto me. So it's and they get it. Like the whole idea that a lot of people have now, like they talk about young people in general terms as if they're all they've all lost their faith, they've lost their humanity. They haven't. Like most of the young people, all the young people who volunteer with us, they are exemplary. Like, it's actually a privilege to be out with them, regardless of what with the school or the background that they're coming from. And for me, I keep thinking like the one thing that is instilled in these young people, obviously by their parents and by their schools or whatever it is how they see the person, how you actually see the other person. And even last night we were having a conversation, and what I was saying to them was, like myself included, that invariably when previously when you met people like this coming down the street, you crossed the road, they're like the modern day lepers. But when you start to, when you stop them, when you start to talk to them, you realise, like one young lady said to me one night, because somebody was shouting at her and abusing at her, she said, if only they knew what it was to walk a mile in my shoes. And she was broken, and you could tell that the poor girl was broken, whatever had happened to her. And I can assure you, the most horrible things happen, especially young girls, when they're out in the street, as you can imagine. When they, when you've got a group of young people who are willing to give up their night, especially last night because it was really cold and really wet, I'm sure these guys, most of their friends were sitting at home playing Xbox or something, but they were out there, and they were meeting and greeting people. And after a while, initially there's a little apprehension in relation to, say, the spiritual side of it. It's easy to give a guy a cup of tea and a sandwich. It's much harder initially to say, can we help you? Build up some kind of a conversation with them, and can we say a prayer with you? And us as legionaries, the big thing is that we always hand out the green scapular. We take that with us. So, and we explain it to the lads, and it's not uncommon. After a couple of weeks out, they'll turn around and they'll ask us, "Is it okay to say a prayer with this person?" So, to me, there's plenty of hope. There's loads of hope there. It's just that we just need to bring it out. To bring it out of the young people, and obviously that's the type of thing that's happening in Tallaght. If you've got 80 young people on a Saturday afternoon trying to discern their future in Christ and with Christ, because it's only by attending these events that young people will actually see the true way forward. So there's a lot of hope.
Great things going on. Thanks be to God. And just for the benefit of our listeners, it's just one of John's hobbies, really. How the man does all he does, I have no idea. But you hit on something essential. I've often spoken about it here. The idea that if you draw young people in through the avenue of charity, which they will rise to very easily, very quickly, with just a little prompting and a small bit of leadership, and you will lead them on the path of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Young people nowadays are no different to than they were when we were younger or previous generations. There's a real sense of of hope. They want to do what is what is good for themselves and for their communities and all the rest. But that idealism is still in young people, and it's up to the older generation to do their best to try and bring that out of them and to nurture it. And very often, what happens is it goes the other way. Like a lot of people of our generation can be very negative, pessimistic. They've been worn down by the world, let's say, and the world itself. It can be pretty hard on young people these days as well. And very often, what you see is you see young people who might try to have a foot in each camp. They might try to have a foot in the worldly camp, and they might try and have a foot in the heavenly camp as well. And it's just by the prayers of their parents and their families and their communities that eventually the penny will actually drop, and they'll realise what they need 2 feet in the heavenly camp, because that's their ultimate destination. And not only that, it's the way that God has prescribed it. And the longer I'm around, the more I realise that God has prescribed it this way because it's the happiest way for us. It's the most joyful way. He hasn't described it this way because he doesn't want us to have any fun, or he's a spoiler or whatever it is. Like God knows very well what he made us. He knows how for us to be happy. And I think that when young people see, and especially when they see the other side of life, where they see what can go wrong, and it's for young people today, there's loads of opportunities to go wrong. There's a huge culture of death out there. There's a huge culture of drugs. All the various things that can go wrong. And as young people, they're always they're inquisitive, they're curious, and all the rest of it. But I can assure you, if there's any young people out there who would like to come out with us for a night on the streets in Dublin, any glamour or any ideas you have that side of life is remotely glamorous, it'll be knocked out of you fairly quickly. And that's and it doesn't have to be in Dublin, because these issues now are in every town in Ireland. So it's I would encourage people of our generation to actually try and furnace or try and get that energy that the young people have and that goodness, and to try and bring it out of them and encourage them to go out and to meet and greet people who may have fallen through the cracks, or people who didn't have the same advantages as they had in life, or they didn't have the safety nets that a lot of I know that I had. I'm sure you had as well, Father. Where although you mightn't have needed to use your safety net as much as I had to use mine.
You'll find out on Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. But no, it's really important that we do that. And for me, this is the way back. Like as you say, charity. To actually instill that sense of charity among our young people. Once we've done that, seriously, I think we've done our job. Because the Lord will do the rest. He'll bring them along in his own time. So the offer's there if anybody wants to take it up.
Sure, great. And that touches in nicely on our theme for this week. Today we've started a novena on our St. Patrick, and celebrating all the things evangelization that are going on in the country, and as you say, many green shoots, many wonderful young people that we've been meeting and bringing to the microphone here. And it's great to have the radio just as an instrument to pass this good news on to others and let people know, look, there is tremendous hope and there's great blessings, and the Lord has, the faith has not gone away by any means whatever. That conference last Saturday, as a case in point, we were promoting in Limerick as well, and back up in Walkinstown. We'll be down in Skibbereen next week. So the work of the radio is just enabling and facilitating, I hope, supporting all of these good things that are going on. We missed you, of course, in Italy last week, John. I know you were otherwise engaged, but your name has been taken in vain in Italy, the World Family of Radio Maria.
Yeah, I expected that. I anticipated that.
Your ears were burning.
Yeah, but no, I haven't quite got the grace of bilocation yet.
So working on it.
But I'm working on it. No, I'm only joking. But no, I just couldn't go. It was as simple as that. It was the timing was terrible. Of all the weeks that come up, it was the one week that I couldn't make it. I was needed here.
Well, I've been telling the listeners, it was lovely to meet the different priest directors and presidents from the other radio stations, particularly Eastern Europe. And Belarus is they've just really been all fired out of the country or imprisoned. And the poor lady, the president of Belarus, is now in Poland, and I don't know how they're trying to keep on air, keep it going. And she said, like, from her country, they're launching missiles in the direction of Ukraine, and here's the priest director of Ukraine kind of sitting alongside, and just awful. And their capacity, I think, to support Radio Maria in Russia has been severely curtailed as well, and so getting finances to them is proving a problem. So they actually again stay on air too. So whatever little problems we might think we have, it's great to see the bigger picture. And yet each one of those radio stations doing its part to try to build up the faith. The priest director in Armenia said he's trying to connect in with Syria, the Armenian right there, and through the faith to open up a few channels to get a Radio Maria going somewhere in Syria. And Syria is in absolute turmoil and is very problematic. But the world family, they're still ploughing on, forging on and pushing on and encouraging us to keep growing and keep moving it onwards and forwards. In Africa, they have something like 17 requests to start new Radio Maria stations. They just can't keep up with the demand. They're looking to start in Ethiopia and in what's the other Eastern African country there now as well? Is it Somalia or not?
Eritrea?
Zimbabwe. No, Eritrea wasn't mentioned. But again, they just have new territory waiting to begin again, and really encouraging us to keep doing what we're doing and keep urging our listeners and friends, our family, to come to the support like you're doing to the homeless on the streets. Come to the aid of those who have been lost in the faith and yet to hear the gospel. That the missionary task, is very urgent still, and we have our part to play.
Well, look, listen, it's an absolute privilege to be a part of Radio Maria here in Ireland when we hear, about even the support, even the first and foremost, the prayer support that we're given to Ukraine and Belarus, and they think that, that they've got two men sitting at the same table and their governments are at war or whatever. But here they are, it's the whole Christian message. Here they are, the two of them being able to share that and share it in a peaceful way. And and to pray for each other, and I often think when you go back and take a look at the root cause of all this, I know that let's say when it comes to a situation of marriage, I know that Jesus told the Pharisees to go back to the very beginning, and if we go back to the very beginning, the one thing that we are all absolutely certain of, or we should be, is that we're all made in the image and likeness of Christ. And if we started to think of each other in those terms, there'd be no war. There'd be no hatred. Everybody would, you'd be looking at each other as brothers and sisters, as opposed to an enemy. And I think this has happened. This whole we've lost that sense. Like we're all brothers and sisters, that we're not made in the image and likeness of Christ. This is what happens when atheism, like communistic atheism, comes into societies, and we move away from from the real truth, and we see the other person as maybe an inconvenience, or like somebody that needs to be sorted out. So in those situations, you've absolutely no fear of like dropping bombs on them, or it's the same thing actually when it comes to life in the womb as well. When we don't see the child as one of us,
that's right.
And that's what happens. It becomes an inconvenience, and it's terrible to think we're sitting here, and there are people who are actually they're actually just murdering each other, killing each other, because of some silly like political agenda or whatever it is. And that's what it comes down to. It all comes down to people's sense of pride and and their ego, and you're not going to get one over in me, and that type of thinking on it. We all have that in our own lives. There's none of us are perfect, but when you blow it up into a much bigger scale, this is what happens, and you've just got wholesale murder. And as I say, there's really no need for it. Like when and it's a real Like it shows authentic Christianity when two people from different sides can actually sit down and talk in peace and work out how they can actually lead peace in their own communities. And like Ireland was actually a classic example.
Sure.
Like we have like two Christian communities essentially at war with each other. And the big thing I often say about that was, like, what day was it all sorted? What day did it stop? On Good Friday.
Yes.
So like these little things I think are sent from heaven to show us the way that like there is opportunities for peace. Like once we start to see each other the way God wants us to see each other, and there's no need for it. It just brings like hardship, pain, suffering. Like you can imagine if one of your family were attacked or killed or blown up, or your whole family or your house, like it's freezing cold in Ukraine at the moment. You can imagine you go back and your apartment block, whatever it is, has just been leveled. Like how would you feel? It's just, and very often we look at it on the TV, but the real human cost, we don't actually take it on board. But as I say, I know I'm going on a bit, but it's great to be part of Radio Maria here, to know that there's prayers, like there's support, like there's whatever we can do for those people, we're quite willing to do it, and to reach out to them. And I think that makes a big difference to them.
Sure. I got a few minutes with Father Alexei as well, the priest director in Ukraine. Just asked him, how are you coping? How are you managing when the next missile could be on your doorstep? And he said, well, if I was to stop and think about that, I'd wither away and just do nothing. And I think the powerful lesson in that for us maybe too, and for our dear listeners and friends who might feel a bit overwhelmed, or just a sense of hopelessness, or a sense of, he said for him, the fact that I have the task in hand of continuing the radio with the poor resources I have, because many of my staff have been taken off to war, or they've escaped the country. Many of my volunteers have again emigrated. So with what I have, I keep going, and I apply my energies and focus on that. And prayer is the fundamental content of is radio broadcasting, and hearing from Ukrainians scattered all over Europe, coming on via Skype, maybe the internet, and telling of their story too, and participating again in the life of prayer. That he's still holding on, building communion and community and prayer and faith and peace in whatever little way, but that the radio is a powerful instrument, and that's what keeps him going. Like if we were to do the same and kind of allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by the plenty of negative things and do nothing, whereas instead you go out in the streets, you offer a sandwich, you come to the microphone, you say a prayer, you make that's being missionary, and that's building hope, I would say, as well. And actually in a very powerful way, because it's not even what actually I met Father the last time. I did manage to get to Alexei,
I met him. Very nice man. It's not even what you can do yourself, it's the witness that you're given as well, and like the example to people around you. And like if you're, let's say, a man of peace or a person of peace, to me that gets contagious. Like it really is. So the more of that we can let's say supply, or the more of that we can indicate. Like the same thing, as I said, the same thing happened here. Like when I was growing up, like we grew up in the middle of a conflict, and like there was that fear, of what was going to happen, like, or the animosity, between neighbours and all that. That was very, very strong. It's not now. And why? Like people have started, communities have started to speak to each other. Like the barricades have been removed. Like the blocks are taken down, and the same thing actually will have to happen at some stage in Ukraine or Russia. Otherwise, they're going to be in a permanent state of war, and we know, like, eventually these things come to an end. Our job is just to pray that they come to an end sooner rather than later, and that there's peace. That as I say. And we've got Our Lady, Queen of Peace. She's got a radio station in the middle of Kiev or somewhere, and it's just brilliant. And it's great that Father is keeping the flag flying, because it is the only way back for that whole region, including Syria. You mentioned there earlier on about Ethiopia. Ethiopia have had, that we're in constant contact with some Salesian priests in Ethiopia and in Eritrea. and what was happening there was as equally as bad as what was going on in Ukraine. But now, thankfully, we're getting messages back from the priests there to say that normality is returning. They're getting back their internet. They're getting back. Just small things, but they mean so much to the people there. And there's a real feeling of of euphoria. Actually, they're just reading the text messages that they're getting back. It's still difficult, but at least that they know that they're not going to wake up somewhere and then to bandits or or violence, let's say. So I think peace will always work out in the end. Unfortunately, it's like a guy said to me one day, history keeps repeating itself until it's healed, and the healing will come through prayer, and the quicker people realise that, the better, I think.
Yes, so thank God for this great gift of Radio Maria, which in all these countries is such an instrument for good. So we'd love to hear from you if you want to be part of our little conversation today. It's John Carlin who's with me, our president here and volunteer, and John, a man of many talents and many other activities too. But good to share. This is a week of, or at least a novena in honour of St. Patrick, just relishing the gift of faith we've received, but not being passive in that, being a missionary in some capacity. So if you'd like to text and WhatsApp 089 467 2000. If you're in the north or further afield, +35 389 467 2000. Give a call on the landline 014 123 456. Again, a +353 141 23 456. info@radiomaria.ie if you want to send us a quick email. And by all means, drop a comment here on our social media. We're on Facebook, and YouTube, and I think Twitter simultaneously now. We're sort of spreading our presence on the internet land, so please do connect in with us as well. Like, share, follow and subscribe. So thanks, Nuria, looking after the desk for us today. A little brief musical interlude, and we'll be back very shortly.
They say you're the king of everything, the one who taught the wind to sing, the source of the rhythm my heart keeps beating. And they say you can give the blind their sight, and you can bring the dead to life. You can be the hope my soul's been seeking. I want to tell you now that I believe it. I want to tell you now that I believe it. I do, that you can make me new. Author of
Andrea Battistelli, I think is the name of that singer. Write Your Story. It always sounds to me like righteous story. So maybe it's both. Welcome back to Radio Maria Ireland. Nice to have your company today. Chatechesis today. Fr Eamonn with you, and John Carlin, our president, for our little sermon on the amount. We haven't talked anything about the amount other than the amount of grace perhaps that's flowing. And can I always preface and include at every stage just a big thank you to all our dear friends, because without your help, without your support, without your promotion, without your prayers, and without your financial assistance, we would not be where we are today. And thank God the radio is growing all the while and bulging a little bit at the seams, because every office is full of activity now, John. It's kind of grown quite consistently and considerably in your time, I might add.
Well, in your time as well. No, like it's what we have now. Like we've grown dramatically. It's like the always joking business about the hockey stick. Where the guy you start in here and then all of a sudden there's this big sharp rise. But that's fairly accurate as to what has actually happened here. Like from many staff, we had maybe 3-4 staff. Up to maybe 14-15 people, and all the volunteers. We'll not forget the volunteers, because they're just brilliant. So yes, and I think we've adopted a strategy here where we kick the ball up the pitch and we run after it.
Build a bigger cake, or make a bigger cake.
Exactly, because that's the mission here. Like the mission here, we're like on earth, we're the church militant, and if, there's no sense sitting back and saying that we've got this big army and all the rest of it and keep it locked up in a barracks. It doesn't work. We've got to get out there. We've got to start re-evangelising the country. The idea of sitting back and being negative and crying about things that have happened,
or only just measuring out the cloth to suit.
Exactly.
This is just as far as we can manage.
And and certainly, and I know I started off by speaking about hope and all the rest of it, and I firmly stand in that. There's no problem, but I'm also very practical in that I know that let's say the whole idea of comfortable Catholicism in this country, it's been challenged. It's gone, but but that doesn't mean we sort of pack up and go home. It means that we have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, there's a pushback, and like Radio Maria Ireland is part of that pushback. And the listeners, the people who are listening now, you're part of this pushback.
Very much so.
In fact, you are the pushback.
That's right.
So so like it's certainly like it's our job here is to try and I've said it before, is to make the assets sweat. When we sit down and we take a look at the investment that has gone in here, this essentially has fallen into our laps. It's really has. And through the work of people who aren't even here anymore, and I don't mean in the building, I mean here on earth anymore. There's people who have gone before us who had the foresight and they had the courage to say, okay, we'll take this on, and we'll see how it works, because it's all very well, with hindsight looking back and saying, yeah, that was a great idea, but when you're starting off from scratch and you're looking forward at like a project like this, it can be very daunting. And a lot of people would say, oh no, I'm not going to get involved in that because of the fear factor. But we've got to get rid of the fear factor. We really do have got to get rid of the fear factor. Our faith has brought Ireland through serious times before, and it will do again. And it's a matter of people just sitting down, as I said initially as well. It's the prayer and the good works. So and that's really what we're trying to provide here. With our daily mass, with our rosaries, with our, the Divine Office, the Divine Mercy. We've got all the tools. We have all the weapons, let's say, that we need to actually affect the pushback, and we just have to now just basically knuckle down and get on with it. And that's really what's happened here. And it's great to see so many people around the place. It's great. The atmosphere here is fantastic. And by the way, there's a Céad Míle Fáilte here for anybody who ever wanted to come in and visit us as well, because this is your radio station. It belongs to you, and no problem with you coming up and taking ownership of it. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of moving parts, but we're managing to stay on top of it. Thanks again to all the prayers, and the the donations that are coming in, it's mind-boggling, and the overall support, which is why we feel confident, when we kick that ball up the pitch, that we're going to actually get to it at some stage. And we do. I think we do. And it's we'll keep on doing that. So
we will. Meaning that there are, it's quite a financial sort of burden, or there are financial needs constantly. And as I always say again, every penny that comes into us is gone out the door almost as quickly, and the accounts are close to nothing at the bottom of the barrel nearly all the time, simply because of the ongoing cost. But you make all of this possible, and please God, as we grow and as we build, and the more promotions we'll be doing, there's a promotion coming up down in Wexford. I think there's a seniors trade show going on that we're going to try our hand at, and pop in and see it there. We'll be this weekend heading to Knock and meeting some of the organisers of Pilgrims, and been invited up there, so that'll be a lovely moment just to interconnect with the activity there. And we'll be promoting locally in Dublin, in Inchicore, and our own native parish of Bluebell. So, and we had 3 or 4 promotions going on last weekend, so this is the kind of energy that the ball is way up that pitch, and we're running after it like crazy. And the more we get the word out, the more it builds and grows, and the more blessings certainly can flow as well. And part of that, John, is the prayer. Of course, the adoration has been loving to have 24/7 adoration here since Ash Wednesday, concluding on a Holy Thursday. But we're managing to.
No, we're managing. Thanks to Paula, we're managing to keep the rota going, and sometimes it's tough. But like 24/7, like there's always somebody sitting in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And that in itself, I think, is for us is a huge achievement, and it's great for everybody. It's great for the people who participate. It's great for their families, for their communities. We're back to I think the Frank Duff theme, true devotion to the nation. Like if you really want to to pull on your flag next week on St. Patrick's Day, I think the best thing to do is get on your knees and say a few prayers. And if you're able to do that in front of the Blessed Sacrament, brilliant. And if you're even able to come here and help us out as well with the adoration here, because the more we have here, the better. That's pretty obvious, but like you'd be very, very welcome if you'd like to come along here and spend some time in front of the Blessed Sacrament here. And as I say, I'm fairly certain every time we go in there, we just bring earth a little closer to heaven, and that's the whole purpose of it, and that's what we're trying to achieve. We have another 4 weeks, is it? We have another 4 weeks to go.
Well, this is week 2 of Lent, so
yeah.
And this is Thursday, so it'll be a Holy Thursday. 4 weeks.
It's 4 weeks yet to go, and there's also a similar initiative with the Benedictine monks in Stamullen in County Meath. Aoife and Miriam and all the people up there, the local people up there, they're doing a fantastic job as well. And like there's they have their own group as well. And I'm just looking at the WhatsApp group, and it's just add me in for 2 hours, add me in for whatever. I'll do a night here or whatever. It's just fantastic to see it happen, and I'm sure the monks up there are absolutely delighted as well. So it's just to keep the head down, keep the shoulder to the wheel, and just keep on going. And hopefully at the end of Lent, we'll have a beautiful spiritual bouquet to hand over to Our Lady, and with the graces and that as well. We'll have to negotiate a little bit with her to say to open up the
purse.
The purse. But listen, we just during the break there, Father was telling me that we needed an electrician here to do something, and there was a person sitting in the oratory and come out behind him. Is this right?
I came into the kitchen myself and myself were chatting away, but we're just trying to finalise connections, and just considering cameras, permanent fixed cameras in the oratory as well, just to enhance our video. We had a demonstration on that from Radio Horeb last week, and just encouraging us, because we're a digital only radio, that we could do with the presence online visually, a better presence. We're doing all right, I think, so far. But we just got the motivation then to say, okay, let's fix our microphone points, let's set things up a bit better in the oratory, and just need an electrician to do that. So Eamon O'Sullivan came in to volunteer and offered to help. He was criticising the lighting, and I said, look, Eamon, can you do something about it? Don't just give out, just try. So he said, yeah, sure. But this lady Ruth just happened to be in the kitchen as we were talking. He says, well, by the way, I'm not an electrician, do you want to help?
Yeah, and that's the way things work. So
Our Lady sort of sent her in to say, okay, here you go, you need help, here you got it.
Yeah. No, as I say, that's the way. Like I've had like loads of experiences like this where you're really stressed out, of being able to pay the next bill or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you realise that somebody has been, or a lot of people have been very generous, and it just moves on. Like it's and I think the whole point of this is to teach us to surrender everything to God. And I think once we get it to surrender, which is really difficult to do, by the way, I'm struggling with that all the time, but to surrender everything to God and just hand it over to Him and say, look, listen, this is yours, it's not mine. So if you can look after that, and it's the same even in our personal lives and in our business lives as well, just give it all over to God and let Him look after it, because I think He's better at it than we are.
He certainly knows what He's doing. He knows what He's doing. But the other story was Patricia McCarthy. She was visiting, and her husband John was with her, and I was looking to get some proper sort of cupboards and storage space for the sacristy. And she says, "Oh, my husband will do that for you. Here." And he got him in, and he did a fine job. And it's again, Our Lady just sends the people we need.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So there's nothing to worry about.
That's right. Just keep chasing the ball.
Yeah.
Good. We better finish, John. It's just going up to 12 o'clock. So
Okay.
thanks for joining again
thank
today.
you, Father. Thanks to everybody for listening as well, and thanks for all your support. It's really appreciated.
Amen. Amen. God bless you. So we'll do exactly now as we say. We'll bring you into prayer as we'll pause for our midday prayer. But God bless and be with you. Looking forward to your company again, please God, tomorrow for our Chatechesis. So let's pause for our Angelus and midday prayer.